I mean that what we have seen is that they're moving forces from around Kiev, and the intention is to move them down to Donbass and then most likely engage in an offensive in the Donbass region. For me, this is not a withdrawal, this is a repositioning of the troops to engage them in battle somewhere else.
But do you fundamentally believe that the very fact that they're doing that means that they are abandoning the hope of taking places like Kiev, Kharkiv and the West?
No, I think that's far too early to make that conclusion. But I think it reflects that they have experienced much more resistance, and the fight has been much more difficult for Russian forces. So they need to concentrate and to regroup to focus now on the Donbass region.
If the strategy, both on the diplomatic front, is a ceasefire, peace treaty that cedes Donbass, then it makes sense to an extent, doesn't it, to increase the military battlefield against Donbass, take that and be in a much more powerful position to go into negotiations.
But I think we all have to realize that at the beginning the aim was to take both Kiev and Donbass. Then they have not been successful in neither taking Donbass nor Kiev. And then because they have met much stronger Ukrainian resistance than they expected, and then they are now changing, regrouping, but this is not a withdrawal. It is actually just another way to wage war, and we see that the shelling continues, and we see that the human suffering continues, so the war continues. It's not a real withdrawal from the war.
But if the war focuses on Donbass, is there a danger that the rest of the world says, all right, well, we've protected, or he has protected most of Ukraine, we can let Donbass go to Russia?
NATO's position is clear. We support Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty within its international recognized borders. And that's also the reason why NATO allies, for many years, actually since 2014, have supported Ukraine. Allies have trained tens of thousands of Ukrainian forces, which are now on the front line fighting the invading Russian forces. We have equipped them for many years, so the Ukrainian armed forces are bigger, stronger, better equipped, better led now than they ever have been. And then combined with the courage and the commitment of the Ukrainian forces, they have been able to actually fight back and resist the invading Russian forces, and that's exactly what we are going to continue to do, provide them with support.
But you were surprised at the lack of professionalism or the lack of process that the Russian forces, they haven't performed as NATO had predicted or believed they would. We all thought it was going to be over in a week and a half.
But every plan, in a way, doesn't survive the first day of battle. So that was exactly what happened with the Russian plan of taking Ukraine in a few days, because they partly underestimated the strength of the Ukrainian forces and overestimated the strength of their own forces. We should not underestimate Russia, because Russia is still the biggest land power in Europe, and we have also seen that President Putin is willing to use force to achieve his objectives, and that is one of the important lessons to be learned from the invasion of Ukraine.
There were many moments in which I thought your diplomatic skills were par excellence when you were with the former President of the United States, Donald Trump, as you had to go through this, what role is NATO got, paying the bills for NATO. This event, this Russia event, far from being desirable, but are countries paying their dues faster as a result?
Yes, what we have seen is that, first of all, since we made the decision in 2014, all allies have started to invest more, and more allies are meeting the guideline of spending 2% of GDP on defense. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, many allies have made announcements, not least Germany, to meet the 2% guideline. And I welcome that, because in a more dangerous world we need to invest more in our security, and that's exactly what NATO allies are now doing.
Do you ever feel, not that you would because you're way too diplomatic, but don't you wish sometimes you could say to the members, I told you so, if you'd only started paying the dues properly in the first place, we might not be in this mess?
Well, I think all allies realized that it was the right thing to start, and I think allies perhaps also realized that they should have started even earlier. But the good news is that over the last, also since 2014, we have seen a significant increase in defense spending across Europe and Canada, 270 billion extra US dollars for defense over these years, and now they are stepping up even further. So we are investing because we need to do that when we see more global competition, we see a more dangerous world, and then we see the aggressive actions of Russia.
Do you lie awake thinking about Putin using the unthinkable weapons? I mean, for the first time in our lives, let's be blunt here, for the first time in our lives, we're similar age, we are facing somebody actually saying, I might use a tactical nuclear or I might not. That keeps people awake at night. Does it keep you awake?
It makes me concerned because we have two tasks in this conflict. One is to provide as much support to Ukraine as possible, but at the same time prevent this conflict from escalating to become a full-fledged war between NATO and Russia. Because that may actually lead to the risk of use of nuclear weapons. And we have a responsibility to prevent that from happening. And we do that not least by increasing our presence on the eastern flank to send a very clear message to Russia that an attack on one ally will trigger a response from the whole alliance. And this increased presence is not to provoke a conflict, but to prevent the conflict and also prevent escalation of the conflict in Ukraine.
But if there was, if there was a use of a tactical weapon in Ukraine, God forbid, where, for example, fallout went into NATO countries, would you regard that as an attack on NATO?
We live in a very dangerous and unpredictable situation and a more dangerous security environment, and therefore I think it's very dangerous to speculate too much. What I can say, because that would add to the uncertainty, but what I can say is that an attack on a NATO allied country will trigger a response from the whole alliance. That is the very clear message we are sending, not only in words but also in deeds, by deploying tens of thousands of more troops in the eastern part of the alliance and increasing the readiness of our forces. So there should be no room for miscalculation in Moscow about our willingness and commitment to defend all allies, and by doing that we are preventing them from attacking any NATO country.
Finally, you have said you're staying on for a year. You have forgone the delights of monetary policy in Norway, and the job's now gone to the deputy. Why did you decide to stay?
Because we are in the midst of a very serious security crisis for Europe. Because for me it's a privilege to continue as Secretary General of NATO. And I'm honored to be asked by 30 allies to continue. And therefore I felt that was the most important thing I can do. And therefore I accepted the offer to continue.